Hey guys, it's Graham. What's crackin'? I've been teasing this one for a little while now. This is my review of two of the three Ghost Machine comics, Redcoat and Rook Exodus. The third book is Geiger, but like I said before, I'm not interested in reading that one. It's just this kind of like grungy, messy, radioactive, post-apocalyptic setting, and that's never appealed to me aesthetically. It's never been something I wanted to read. So setting that one aside, but the premise of these two books really grabbed my attention, and I thought, what the heck? I'll jump in, and I am very, very satisfied with both of them. I thought Redcoat was really good. I thought Rook Exodus was excellent. Unlike a lot of my videos, this isn't going to be one with just one stationary image. I'm actually going to be moving through pictures so you guys can kind of pause and see. I'm not obviously showing the entire comic, but I just wanted to give you a sample of what you're looking at if you decide to pick these up for yourself. From what I understand, Geiger, Redcoat, and Rook Exodus are going to have monthly books for the first 6 months, and then in October, another wave of Ghost Machine books comes out. But without further ado, let's jump into these. We'll go through Redcoat first, and then we'll do Rook Exodus. So the premise is that in 1776, there's this late 20s British soldier. His name is Simon Pure. Check out the cover on this, on both of these books. If you open it up, it's kind of a two-page spread that gives you a really big picture here. Excellent, excellent artwork. You kind of get a feel for the world. They set it up as the colonials borrowed magical knowledge from the Native Americans, in addition to like expanding into the land. They absorbed magical practices, and they're using that against the Redcoats. This picture here, sorry for the light glare on that. It's Paul Revere's out doing his ride, and John Hancock comes and does some firefly magic to save him from some Redcoats that had captured him. None of these Redcoats is Simon Pure. He pops up elsewhere. He's just kind of a scoundrel, a thief, a braggart, a layabout, a no good, ne'er-do-well, whatever the word is. And while he's sleeping in a off-the-road church, he ends up interrupting, I believe it's a Masonic ritual that's doing something or other to Benjamin Franklin. And the plan was to make Benjamin Franklin immortal, but Simon fell in the way of the beam, and now he's immortal, and that's his curse. That's what he's dealing with. And so you see now in this picture, you get glimpses of him in different eras of time: 1790, 1827, 1892. This story takes place in 1892, so it's only briefly 100-something years after the Revolution. Somebody probably better versed in American firearms than me will know whether they actually had revolvers in 1790. It was my understanding that that was an early 1800s or mid 1800s invention. I don't know. Kind of irrelevant, just a little detail here. But, excuse me, in the end, he meets a young, well, before I spoil anything, a young man who is significant in American history. And you get the feeling that that's going to be a recurring theme for a character who's never able to die, and well, he can temporarily die, but he gets better. Last thing I want to highlight here, there's this timeline at the back of the book. Whatever the unnamed is, maybe it's kind of like the overarching series name for this connected chronology of books. So Redcoat is at the beginning of the timeline, and then in 1864, The Northerner, maybe that's a book that's coming out later, he does his thing. 1944, The Monster, don't know what that is. Junkyard Joe. So I heard of Junkyard Joe, excuse me, sorry, I'm got some crud in my throat or something. I heard of Junkyard Joe, and I thought it was one of these books that was coming out, and then come to find that it's a comic that already had its run about a year ago. There's a trade paperback available on online. I've got an art commission in the pipe, and usually rather than taking money, I just have people send me books for small commissions like that, so I know what I'm getting next. The aesthetic of that one, it kind of reminded me of Mark C. Jones's Tin Can Tommies, which I read last year, and it made my best of year list. It was really, really cool. So just, robots in World War II, that kind of thing. I'd be interested in seeing what the story's about, especially if it's going to be part of this larger chronology. Widow X, don't know what that is. First Ghost, looks like, based on the icon there, it's got something to do with a ghost in the White House, and then 5 years from now, whatever the unknown war is that erupts. And it looks like Geiger is the story that's going to be set down the road in some sort of post-apocalyptic wasteland. Not my bag, but I'm curious to see how this whole thing plays out. And I thought this Redcoat book was cool enough to keep reading. In addition to Who's He What's It, Tin Can Tommy's, this one also reminded me of the Sons of Liberty graphic novel series that was supposed to keep going, but it went out of print over 10 years ago, put together by the Lagos brothers. I've done a video of that one, but it also dealt with Benjamin Franklin during the Revolution, arcane magic, etc., etc. I have a feeling that this one's got a better chance of finding its legs and continuing onward, so it'll be cool to see how all that plays out. But now for the better of these two, and that was Rook Exodus. Take a look at this cover here. The artwork, all of that. I love what they've done here. The color palette, the sharpness, but at the same time the ruggedness of it all. A very, very good look. Exodus is the name of a world that was terraformed, but then the terraforming broke, and as the world started to die, all the rich people left. Everybody left behind is scrounging what they can to build backyard special rocket ships, and they take off and then explode, and the scavengers try to scavenge what they can of the scavenged ships and hopefully find their way off-world. But really what they're choosing between is a dying world here and the dying Earth that they left behind. So there's a debate over, like, well, why even bother go back? Or to go back, well, we know the Earth is still alive. We know that this place is definitely going to die. Well, isn't Earth definitely going to die, etc., etc.? I'm not always the biggest fan of that idea in sci-fi. Like, oh, the Earth is dying. We need to leave it behind. Like, okay, like I get that it works as a plot mechanism. I just also feel like it's been done a lot. But these guys are only using that as enough of a springboard to get us onto this other planet, and they use it well enough to create conflict. It's like, well, do we die here or do we die there? What do we do? The main character is just known as the Warden of Rooks. There is a pretty decent story explanation as to why they have these helmets that control different genuses, or I guess genii, of animals. The undercurrent of it is the hubris of humanity, thinking that they can use technology to control all of nature, only to be slapped in the face with the hard reality that nature and physics will do whatever it wants to do, and you can only control so much. In addition to the world dying, some of the apex predators or larger fauna start to grow larger still, and so you get these bears that are the size of 3 or 4 school buses, and he's got to do what he can to survive them. He's also doing a bit of his I Am Legend thing, going from apartment to apartment, scrounging what resources he can, while he's also looking for pieces to build his own spaceship. In the meantime, he's having flashbacks to growing up in farm country in middle America as the big exodus is happening, to Exodus, as it were. And then flashes back to the present while he's continuing to scavenge, and he meets his friend. His name is Rook, obviously, like the Warden of Crows, and then his friend is just known by Swine. People really get into their personas here. And Swine's the dirty, tough guy that runs around with giant boars, and obviously Rook uses his crows, and they have arguments over, they're the ones that are mainly arguing over, like, well, do we stay here? Do we go back to Earth? What's the point? Etc., etc. I will say that the ending of this issue of Volume 1 was not what I expected. I was like, oh crap! Like they're not messing around. They're dealing with some heavy material here, and again, I won't spoil it. I won't say anything beyond that. But it's extremely cool. The artwork is just crisp, sharp, detailed. It's perfection. And if I'm going to be spending $4 a month on these books until the series concludes, I feel like I'm definitely getting my money's worth. So my dad was a paper salesman when I was growing up, and so I heard all the time about different weights of papers and different types of papers and stuff. And not that I'm an expert or anything. It's just sometimes as I'm picking up different books, I notice like, oh, this one's kind of printed on a heavier something or other. This one will probably last longer, so on and so forth. I mention it here because as I've been buying comics for the last 3 or 4 months, most of what I buy are the Skybound Energon comics, the Transformers, Void Rivals, G.I. Joe stuff. And those are printed for economy. The paper is very lightweight. It's not, it doesn't feel like cheap and disposable. It's just a very lightweight comic. Whatever they're printing these Ghost Machine comics on, the paper is heavier. The cardstock for the cover is very solid. And it's also costing the same as a Skybound comic. So obviously they're using different business practices between the two if they're able to charge the same price for different materials. But it's not a complaint or anything. It's just an observation between the two. I definitely feel like I'm completely getting my money's worth out of these $4 books every month. So that's really cool. I recommend you check out Redcoat, and I wholeheartedly endorse Rook after this first volume. Hopefully it keeps going. Anyway, I'm recording this late on a Friday. I'm getting ready to head into work. The exciting thing about Friday for me is that my local comic shop gets all my new books from the pull file in on Wednesdays, and so I usually just go in Friday after work and pick them up for the weekend. This week, I believe the new issue of Transformers is out. So last week it was Void Rivals. I'll do a video like this that just kind of catches you up on the entire Energon universe. So you can see what's been going on with Duke, Cobra Commander, Transformers, Void Rivals, all that. That'll get you to this point. Rather than review each issue individually, I'll do a big catch-up one, and you guys can see what I've been reading and why. But it's been fun to get back into comics. I had one more arrive this week. It was actually a big graphic novel from Splato Del Gato. I backed it on Indiegogo like 3 years ago, and Zach has been behind on multiple campaigns for a couple of years now. It was his 2024 goal to get caught up, like to the point where he even put his channel on hiatus, and he'd been doing like 2 or 3 videos a day for years. He went on a hiatus on the channel to get caught up on all major phases of the books that he was behind on, and it worked because I finally got Rock and Roll Ninja in the mail, and I'm really stoked to get to that one. So I know I'm going to be doing a lot of comic book reading this weekend, and it's excellent. I missed having something inexpensive and digestible, and most importantly, very, very rereadable to look forward to on a regular basis. I definitely read my fair share of bigger, meatier, hardier stuff, things that I might reread every couple of years. These ones, I could just grab an inch of them off my shelf and hang out with my kids and flip through comic books, and that's fun. I like that, and I think you guys might like it too. So check these out. Until next time, drive safe. See you out there.